Kaleidoscope, shadow constellation for the spirit. This map of lungs circling the sky, death dreams the skull, this orbit of skulls dreaming, this lung of whispers singing the windows of my dreams, the distance of death dreaming this labyrinth of lungs, floating to the universe's pearl air of drums, sails navigating the drums, this map of sky dreaming the lungs, this vagina void dancing, the ground to dream, the roots to the sky dreaming my lungs to sky, the sky of lungs dreaming the lungs, this whisper of lungs foaming, the infinite bay of the brain, this window of ears singing the sky to sleep, this shadow of lungs singing the universe, obscure heart, dance with my hands, vibrate my skull to see. Protect my lungs in sky, sleep. This mother of cries harmonizing the throat, the teeth, the scream, the skull, the body of floating doves diving sky. Dream my skull to see, vibrate the dream to stone. This ghost of lungs, this voice of spirits floating, this tongue of flame dancing in the skull of dreams, this womb of lungs breathing the universe, these suns pregnant with sky born from form, born from the womb's silent tongue, the womb's drumming universe, this skull of sleep dreaming the womb, this voice of lungs blossoming the void, the wind, the womb, these lungs pregnant with sky, lungs whispering the womb to sleep, this wing of infinite pearls floating the skull to universe, the bones diving the void, this ocean abyss orbiting, this distance of lungs dreaming death, a tongue of fire diving the sea's abyss, this orbit of lungs circling the fiery maps of existence, this map of skulls orbiting the lungs, navigating the wind, this skull of silence singing the whispers of the wind, the lungs jumping to sky, a wing of blood floating to sea, to the gentle oblivion of salt, this tongue of flame dancing the abyss, the flame of oblivion dancing in the lungs, orbiting the abyss of the skull, this prism of lungs diving the abyss, the wildfires of the tongue dancing in the bones, this air of universe listening to tongues singing, the bread of dream, the abyss of bones diving the prism of the whisper, dancing the lungs to wind, this abyss of lungs diving the dream, transforming the universe to spirit, this mother of tears pearling the dream with petals of wind, this mother of tears petals the dream with pearls of sky, this compass of light dreaming the skull, this skull of gravity dancing the wind, these lungs of blood drumming, the shadows singing the lungs, the bones vibrating pregnant with sky, diamonds sailing, stars swimming in the skull, the birth of lungs igniting into flame, petals of universe dreaming this orbit of lungs, blazing the naked petals of air, this throat of sky singing the lungs, this orbit of lungs dancing, this tongue of fire branching the roots, the prism of lungs dancing, the sky singing kaleidoscopes of air, the lungs dancing on the wind's fateful fires, on the wind's fire, stars sailing the skull, navigating blank mirrors of sky, the sky dreaming the bones, the poisoned sleep, the sky singing its clouds of dancing pearls, this map of lungs navigating the bones, this dove of light dreaming my skull to sleep, these eyes of dancing flames singing the bones to sky, the poisonous shadows singing, the rainbow venom of ash, this memory dancing the bones, vibrating the universe throat of sun, the history of bones vibrating the dancing stones, the universe singing the airs, fire floating the bones, diving the abyss, the stars dancing my skull, the history floating the bones, vibrating the universe to a voice of thunder, to a larynx of lightning, the drums floating to space, this shadow of eyes dreaming the abyss, this map of lungs navigating the bones, this map of bones dreaming the void, the lung dancing, this heart of lungs dreaming the sky, this lung of memory breathing the wind, this constellation of voices bridging the void, diving the abyss, this compass of light navigating the skull, this compass of shadows whispering, dancing the skull to dream, the paper venoms of ink burning into vibrating fire, diving the abyss, this ink of sky, this sky of lungs dancing, the constellations of vibrating flame, this constellation of screams dancing the lungs to dream, this kaleidoscope of constellations diving the abyss, transforming space to spirit, this constellation of eyes dreaming the void, this kaleidoscope of eyes dreaming the shadows of the abyss, this kaleidoscope of eyes dreaming the lungs of the abyss, the sky dreams, the foam of clouds, this kaleidoscope pregnant with abyss drumming the constellations to life, the breast of lungs breathing the sky, this storm of lungs howling the abyss, this chest of lungs vibrating dancing fire, the distance of lungs dreaming infinity, this rose of lungs breathing my skull to infinity's dream of kaleidoscopic universes, the voice of lungs breathing the tongue to fire, this voice of tongue singing the universe, the mirror of eyes dancing the dream, this tongue of shadows sweetening the divine ink of the abyss, this womb of lungs breathing the universe of flames, foaming the neck, the birth of lungs flying to dream, the labyrinth of joy crystals my imagination with seeing, a breast of echoes sleeps in the dreaming air, dreams echoing the shadow of bones, dreams echoing the darkness of bones, eyes of fire drinking the lungs, a nectar of breasts foaming the universe's stars of bright milk, the death shadow sleeps in my cosmic womb of diamonds, in the cave mind of seeing, singing pearls to fire, this vein of memories floating to cloud, a lung of roots singing, this lung of air visiting the sun, this lung of sun visiting the air, this eye of fire seeing the dream, this memory of fire singing love songs to the wind, the birth of lungs dreaming sky, the sky of lungs dreaming the wind, the sky of bones dreaming the dancing fires of the lungs, the sleeping lung of infinite dreams, the fire of the tongue, the river of the lungs dreaming the wind, dreaming the void of diving abysses, the fire blooming in the bones, a serpent of fire blossoming a lung of floating sky, the sky of secrets singing stars to the skull, the darkness of bones dreaming the abyss, diving the skull, this compass of light navigating the universe, this compass of light navigating death, the diamond of dream, the lungs pregnant with shadows, the shadows pregnant with abyss of cosmic wombs, the sky of lungs haunting the wind with dreams of kaleidoscopic imaginations, dancing in the abyss of the bones, mapping the invisible navigations of the skull, this compass of light singing the spirit, the tongue of fire dancing in the universe's vibrating belly of suns, the invisible lung diving the whispers of diving constellations, echoing the shadows of the bones, these bones of fire sailing the universe on ashes of wind, waves sparkling with dreaming galaxies, these dove hands healing the storms of my skull, floating to space on petals of dream sound, these lungs of harmony dancing sky, singing the wind, the sky of lungs harmonizing the belly of drums, a drum of sun singing, the universal horn echoing the ears, a door of drums singing the universe belly, the sky of lungs dreaming the foam to the sea harmonizing the bones, the map of bones navigating the skull, the compass of light navigating the fire of the bones, this map of lungs singing the bones, the universe harmonized the sky dancing in bones, harmonizing the universe, the tongue of flames dancing in the void, the orbit of tongues dancing, the memory in fire, the sky sleeping in stones, the orbit of lungs navigating the dead circles of dream, a window of lungs sleeping in the body, these tears born on the tongue, navigating the star milk of rain, the mirror of lungs breathing the universe, throat of screams, this heart of lungs breathing divine blood, the sky of stones drumming the skull of silence singing the stars, the balance of lungs diving, the sky singing my skull to sleep, the sky of lungs singing the space of diving dreams, the wind dreaming our bones, the map of bones dreaming the void, this wing of kaleidoscopes searching the constellations for hot ash and star milk to nourish the flight of invisible journeys to an invisible breast of wind navigating the lungs of children, my skull compass of light navigating the abyss, the bones of sky flying, death dreaming in a tongue of fire, a sky of lungs balancing the cosmos, balancing the feather of focus, dreaming, dreaming the void, the vagina void of sky, the skull of lungs navigating the wind, the sky dreaming the bones to foam, the sky sleeps, death dreams, a heart of obscurity sleeping in stones of silence, these lungs pregnant with wind, the shadows pregnant with abyss, the sea pregnant with tears, the universe pregnant with stars, the stars pregnant with light, the light pregnant with light, the skull a floating buoy, a compass of sight, stars singing the bones to cosmic dream fire, the sky of shadows singing the clouds to constellations, kaleidoscopic shadow constellation, singing, dreaming death to the bones of fire, the sky dancing death to dream, the sky singing the dreams of sound, the constellation of keys cradling the cranium on the coast, Key Carker, the jewel of the New Jerusalem, where hearts of flame sing in the memory of brotherhood and love, the water sweet with singing, the nights flowing in the cranium womb of sky, the island, a diamond of love, a cosmos of life, the coast cradling my cranium, the memory of lungs dreaming, sleep's crystal womb of sky, my cranium climbing the coast, the journey of memories singing to the kaleidoscopic skull, the blood dreaming the heart, the future beat of the stones, the mirror of lungs breathing the heart to diamond dream, the skull, kaleidoscope of dream, igniting the compass with dancing flames of joy, the fire in the bones sleeping with death's universe light, the fire dreaming the rose of the skull sailing the stars, the sky dreaming the void, the silent sky sleeping in stones, the flight of space singing the skull to dream, the shadow of lungs pregnant with silence singing, the thunder of tongues singing, the abyss shadow of dreams, the voice of lungs singing, the dynamics of death dreaming the lungs, the constellation of lungs breathing, this air of lungs drumming the bones of universe vibrating the abyss, the sky of lungs breathing the dream to universe, the distance of lungs dreaming death, the sky dreaming the bones, the map of bones dreaming the night sky of sea, the stars singing death to the lungs, death dreaming the calyx of constellations, the void of lungs sleeping in shadows, the kaleidoscope skull navigating this compass of light, seeing all the directions, spirit knowing all, this air of love, a heart of fire floating in the diamond sun of God. Vibrating skull diamond. For the spirit, for my mother and father who nourished the womb of my imagination by reading to me with the fire of love. Skull journey number 1. A heart of fire floating to a future sky of dancing heavens. Heavens sleeping in my skull. Skull journey number 2. The invisible lungs of kaleidoscopic voices singing the skull to sleep. Skull journey number 3. The vision of fire floating to a mirror of shadows sleeping in my skull. Skull journey number 4. This skull of lungs singing. Skull song number 1. This home of fire blazing in my brain. Skull song number 2. These dancing tongues of flame journeying the landscape of lungs. Skull song number 3. The darkness of death, a diamond. Skull song number 4. The silence of the skull sleeping in sky. Sky symphony number 1. The sky of symphonies sleeping in the spine. Sky symphony number 2. The birth of lungs breathing the brain. Sky symphony number 3. A prism of symphonies blasting the skull. Sky symphony number 4. This window of lungs dancing the night void of sound. The shadow symphony of spirit sleeping in the skull, the voice of death shadowing the skull, the voice of the spirit seeing all, this compass of light navigating the universe, a skull satellite of symphonies, spirits sleeping in the lungs, spirits sleeping in the lung of thorns, the mother womb sleeping in my skull, the father seed germinating universes, universes in the bones, this prayer of silence sleeping in the skull, the vision of dreams navigating the void, the dream, diamond death, death dreams the diamond, the memory of lungs breathing, the landscape of lungs breathing, the prayer of lungs breathing, 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 dreams, dreaming dreams, death's door of diamonds, burst blossoms of beauty, the spirit of death sleeping in the bones, divine death dreaming, lungs sleeping in the womb of the universe, this lung of thorns thundering the larynx of voices, the shadow of skulls sleeping, the keys to oblivion sleeping in stones, the sun source singing serpents in the spine of suns, of sky singing, the sun source stinging the bones to sleep, the cosmic fire stings the lungs to sleep, the heart of lungs breathing Om, the sky flaming to the sun source, this skull of fire floating to sky, this skull of foam singing to sea, this skull a new dream blossoming to sky, the sky of lungs singing in my skull, the seed of lungs dancing death to the dream, the orbit of flame sucking the moon, the fire lung sucking the moon, the fire lung sucking the moon, dancing mirror of death, sleep singing the sky, the womb of space serpents, the dream with the wisdom of the wind of wombs, the mirror of silence sleeping in the lungs, storms sheltering in the skull, silence of stars, storms singing to the silence of the skull, this wind of diamonds blinding the seed, a skull of seeds sleeping the dreams, to roots, to death's universe, this voice of lungs breathing the universe, the seed of death planted in the skull's distance fire, the seed of death planted in the skull's distance of fire, dreaming the void, dreaming the larynx of lightning, the shadow of silence sleeping in my skull, a voice of fire dreaming the distance of lungs, the distance of death, dreaming the diamond sky of forever wombs, Mayan scribes, creating the cosmos from their tongues of fire, of divine seeing, their perfume of constellations singing the mathematics of universes, studying stars and light, writing existence into the cosmos tongue of singing. African griots singing from the cosmic womb of the abyss, the light from the dark, their voices of sun transmitting knowledge of forever with tongues of fire, histories singing the heart, God the Mother, the cosmic womb of creation. Dante Alighieri's tongue of fire, his skull of fire seeing light in the wisdom of God's sky of future visions. Walt Whitman singing his leaves of grass in the emerald focus of seeing, in the body of stars. I am a Cesar, exploding diamonds of fire, in the cosmos of seeing, to the sky freedom of forever. Come on, Brathwaite, the voice of history, singing universes from roots of sea, abyss of fire and joy. The dream of the wind, sleeping in my skull, soaked in stars, sleeping in God's eye of hearts, the abyss of doves flying to the bones of the dream, Belize, the New Jerusalem, where God is expressing his Ummah. God, he and she whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere, singing the future in God's tongue of love, in God's face of wind, in God's voice of seeing diamonds, a window of whispers sleeping in the womb of the wind, the breast of sun singing the foam mouth of a lung of clouds, wind singing the lungs to rainbow serpents of dream, the fruit of flame dancing in the skull's abyss of distances, the orbit of fire drinking the soul, this pearl of foam orbiting the dancing heavens of the skull, the moon, a mouth of pearls, dreaming the sun's blazing face, this skull of cries singing, this orbit of fire sucking the pearls, foam milk, the skull's milk of foam, pearl milk, a vagina of lungs breathing the universe of wombs, a penis of sun fertilizing the womb sky, a flute of lungs floating the music to dark cranium caves of sound, the stars singing sky to my skull, the satellite of skulls dreaming on the sky of floating ash, these eyes of sun dreaming the fires of laughing air, this cloud of lungs breathing a voice of visions, the lights swimming down into the thunder of silence, Kamau Brathwaite's vibrating wisdom, sleeping in the void of the skull, a fetus of fire orbiting my skull, my mother's womb of clouds floating to sky, my mother's womb of voices singing the fire of the throat, my father's heart of divine love, this womb of births, sleeping the sky skull of sound, a heart of lungs whispering the larynx to fire, this cosmic seed of sun, singing blossoms to the bones, the wind blossom lungs to sky, this throat of fire singing death's thorny orbits to ash, this skull of lungs breathing the universe, this skull of dreams sleeping in the universe womb of sky, this skull of dreams sleeping in the lung of infinity, this sky of lungs sleeping in the skull, dreaming the flowers of fire, blossoming to a cloud of dancing kaleidoscopes, a sky of drums dancing the dreams, to diamond death, the night of lungs breathing stars, the sky of lungs sleeping to fire, this eye of fire dreaming space, this eye of lungs breathing the abyss, a wave of lungs breathing the tears to universe, the fruit of fire foaming feathers, this labyrinth of lungs whispering the echoes of the skull, the book of images, the serpent biting its tail drinking the healing poison of wisdom, the crystal of memory singing this page of fire vibrating the void, the sky of sleeping stones, my silence listening to the spirit, this heart of eyes dreaming the womb of the universe, a sleeping lung of fire, breathing a belly of breasts floating to sun, to the milk of the moon, a lung of whispers echoing the dream, a lung of sky, this heart of lungs breathing the storms of my skull, the diamond darkness dreaming the distance of death, the sky of dreams singing to the skull, the drums of death dreaming, whispers dancing in the lungs, the egg of infinity sings the womb to sleep, the heart singing, seer, rise, eyes of fire lighting the universe, harmonizing the skies to lungs, drumming death to the skull, skies harmonized in the bones, in the abyss of the sky womb, night ash, the air of the spirit singing my skull to sleep, drumming death to the children, lighting their healing, lighting their co-creation, lighting the God within, the sound of stars singing to my skull, the vision sleeping in my eyes, the shadow of the abyss sleeping the lungs, the memory of fire floating to the chest, a lung of kaleidoscope singing the skull to sleep. This skull, a compass of light, a crystal of sound sleeping in dreams. Light Feast is a book of light and a journey to light. As you read it, the spirit guides you to the light within yourself. This tongue of fire sleeping, this tongue of fire sleeping in the bones, the infinite universe of skull sailing the dream, the death dream singing the diamond, the harmony of lungs singing sky, lungs listening, the sky sleeping in stones, these stones of sky sailing my skull, this larynx of thunder singing, this throat of thunder singing, the sky sleeping in bones, the sky sleeping in stones, the voice of lungs thundering the foam, this heart of voices singing the symphony of universe, this womb of bread nourishing the children of the universe, this skull of universes sleeping in the lightning of the letters, this voice of lungs singing the universe, a heart of universe beating, drumming the fire of sky, a tongue of flame singing death, death dreaming the skull, a sky of songs breathing unity to the bones dreaming, the skull singing to stars, this heart of whispers sailing the skull, the perfume of my ashes singing the wind, the silence of fire singing death, the sky of silence singing the bones to sleep of stars, the skull of wind singing the womb to death, the diamond of dream, the gravity of lungs singing fire to the wind, the fire of dreams singing the wind, a window of lungs singing the heart to fire, the voice of the lungs singing thunder to my dreams, lungs harmonizing the void, stars sailing the skull, a circle of light focusing the universe, spirit focusing my strength to spirit, the window of infinity pregnant with silences, the sky of lungs singing, the fangs of verbs are ash, the venom is ash, these diamond lungs singing the sun, the arrow of air blazing the skulls of sky, the fire of shadows sleeping in the ash of abyss, the storm of lungs singing, the traveling the wind, these dreams of lungs sleeping, this bird of lungs flying in the womb, this bird of sound singing the lungs asleep, this bird of sound flying in the lungs, a voice of lungs sleeping, nourishing the wind with arteries of dancing air, the distance of death dancing in the lungs, dreaming the kaleidoscopic prism of death diamonds, a voice of lungs dancing in the dream, the diamond of death ashing the abyss, the gravity of mirrors speaking to my skull, the language of the abyss, the dancing language of the spirit, the living dynamic of the spirit, an orbit of lungs dreaming the diamond fire of death. The sky sleeps in diamond kaleidoscopes of cloud, the snake of sun circling the lungs, the night dreaming the scales of abyss, the floating flowers of fire and ash, circling the sleeping poisons of infinity, a breast of sun dreaming the landscapes of bone, a tongue of fire sleeps in the dream, a skull of flying prisms traveling the stars, a belly of lungs sleeping in the womb of the universe, the perfume of pages singing the wind, a breast of birds, a breast of lungs blazing infinity, the dove of the abyss rising to the ash of darkness, these eyes of fire foaming the universe milk of stars, this air of thunder, this crystal of sky singing my skull to sleep, this kaleidoscope of skulls sleeping, sleeping, sleeping in sky, the fire floating in the drums, the birth of sky singing the womb, the birth of sky singing the skull womb of night, the dream that dreams, navigating by the voice of the spirit, the mother's cosmic womb of creation, the abyss from which all life comes, the father's seeing flame, journeying the future, the spiral of Joy Harjo's voice, a sky of lungs floating, a heart of sun singing, the birth of sky of womb nourishing the traveling universe of the skull, the sky of lungs sleeping in stones, breathing the foam of waves, the sky of lungs sleeping in the heart of fire, a heart of fire floating to the sun, this eternal universe of sound, singing the fire of dreams, singing the fire of feathers, A symphony of skulls dancing the drums of infinite kaleidoscopes, visions voyaging the veins, arrows arrowing the air, arteries seeking a heart, harmonizing the cosmos, co-creating the spirit, a heart of fire, a heart of light dreaming the void, the bones dancing, floating to the sound of fire, this breast of hearts breathing the lungs to sleep, a heart of fire floating to a future sky, the sun seeding my skull with sound, the unity of bones sleeping in space, these eyes of fire sleeping in sun, the lungs sleeping in sky, the eye of infinity focused on the sky's fire of dancing wind, silence singing my skull, the birth of lungs sleeping in fire, the shadow of the cosmos sleeping in my skull, co-creating the lungs of light that breathe the universal fires of sleep, haunting the skull to sleep, dreaming the diamond of death. The masks are ash, the bird of infinity flaming the sky, the chameleon in the spine turning to fire in the sun, the distance of death dreaming the orbit of lungs, dreaming the sky's fires of distant skulls, the lungs singing infinity's map of dreams, a skull navigating a labyrinth of lungs, breathing infinity's perfume of words, the fetus of fire orbiting my skull of universe, the depths of surface singing, a mirror of lungs breathing the sounds of sleeping space, an eye of visions navigating the veins to see, a shadow of fire singing, singing, singing to the lunar milk of floating skulls, the pearl of origins germinating in the sky soil of sea, developing universes of flaming seeds, a belly of snakes dreaming the void, a belly of snakes sleeping in the drums of the bones, a door of drums opening to sky, to the rainbow key of universe, vibrating in the diamond darkness of space, the sky floating, the tiger larynx of lightning dancing in the lightning larynx of dancing thunder, the sky of lungs sleeping in the womb of sound, in the womb of silence, in the thunder of dreams. The sky sleeps in the skull of sound. The sky sings the sounds of cloud. The sounds of cloud singing. The flowers of fire singing the wind. This air of whispers sleeping in the universe womb of death. The sky navigating our bones, the universe singing in the skull dancing in the narcotic nebulae of nerves, the stars floating, the dove of stars singing, the dove of the abyss sleeping in the wind, the sky of lungs singing the wind, the sky singing, the sky sings, the visions of serpents singing the universe. What strange fire sleeps in the moon's breast? A mouth of eyes seeing the dead, visions sleeping in the serpent scales, this orbit of eyes singing the fire of tongues, the eggs of infinity sleeping in the dance of lightning, this swarm of directions lighting God, these eyes of sun navigating the void, this seed of visions blossoming, this prism of visions seeing all directions home to God, this eye of seas, this sea of eyes navigating the skull, a prism of visions navigating the eye of infinity singing, the diamond dreams death, the sky sleeps in lungs, these seeds of visions floating in the sound of the body, planted in the skull of the universe, an ear of whispers singing the windows of dancing foam, a mirror of eyes seeing the universe, the shadows sleeping in the skull, dreams diving the memory, the guide map of dreams singing, the compass of the skull, the seed of eyes singing the universe skull of dream, this eye of eyes singing the sound, this eye of eyes journeying the skull, this sky of seeds sleeping in the skull fires of the sea, the eye of infinity sleeping in my skull, the sky sleeping in stones, the sky of sun sleeping in my skull, infinity's distance dancing in dream, the birth of sun sleeping, the shadow of roots singing the heart drum of infinity. What dreams sleep in the snake's belly of fire? What dream of fire sends the serpent's belly to sleep? What strange dream sends the serpent's belly of fire to sleep? The sun of memory, burning in the serpent's belly of dreams, a cloud of lungs singing the airs to whispers. The sky sings, the sky sleeps, the whispers of the womb floating to space, these vertebrae of visions flying to the eye of the universe, the birth of lungs singing the whispers, the mirror of lungs, the birth of wings pregnant with sun, burning in the star of the memory, the diamond of death dreaming, the answers birthed in the question's womb of discovery, the womb of suns dreaming the whisper of lightning, the sun of nothing sleeps in this kaleidoscope, dream diamond. The son of nothing sleeps this astral vagina flying to the void of birth, the mother womb of light singing, the bones to sleeping sky, the abyss singing the pearl of the air to sleep, to the death diamond of dream, the skull vibrating diamond lighting the kaleidoscope universe, the belly of drums navigating the bones, vibrating the universe, vibrating the sun of flying vertebrae, a vertebrae of vision sleeping in the lungs, the infinite diamond of death, dreaming the light of God, the infinite sky singing sleeping in the skull, the light of reason forming the sky milk of sound, the sky milk of mountains circling the eagle's claw of wind, the serpent's belly of fire forming the sound of space, the scales of dead visions sleeping in the ash of nightmares, the thorns are dancing in circles, circles of spirals, of kaleidoscopic waves, of future suns, the skull of silence singing, blindness to the wind, developing the light of the spirit with dreams, a labyrinth of lungs flying to the void of fire, Ubalimir Gera's mind of fire, seed listening, my brother of sun, the flower of dreams blossoming, tongues of fire in the shadows of the sun, the kaleidoscope of infinity, dreaming the diamond of death in all directions, dream. Dream, dream, sleep, death, in my skull of silence, a window of lungs dreaming the open mouth of sky, the key of dreams floating to cloud, the sky of lungs, the sky of hearts vibrating the fire of sleeping skulls, skulls sleeping in death's diamond, dream of silence, a cranium of clouds, a cranium of cosmic codes of life, the dream of lungs dancing in the vibrating labyrinths of diamonds, a prism of kaleidoscopes sleeping to death's light, the abyss of darkness sleeping in the pearl of the abyss, stars swimming in the skull, a sea of skulls floating to sun, a sea of skulls floating to sun, the voice of silence singing the skull to sleep, the abyss singing the pearl of the ear to sleep, to the death diamond of dream, the voice of silence singing the skull to sleep. The masks are ash, the chameleons are ash, the fangs are ash, the claws are ash, the tentacles are ash, the all is ash. The constellation of serpents drinking the diamond poison of stars floating in the floating abyss of the void, the flames of venom sparkling on petals of blood, on petals of sun singing the void, veins voyaging the void, the diamond of death singing dreams to the skull, this breast of infinity singing the embryos of dreams, these eggs of sky sleeping on the tongues of stars, tongues of sun, whispering in the blood, vibrating on ear of dead stars, the lungs sleeping in the diamond, void of death, dreaming the flying sperm of infinity, the visions dancing in the vertebrae of dreams sailing the fertile abyss of ash, a cranium of clouds, kaleidoscopic courage of dancing knowledge, the diamond void of dreams, this wheel of sounds floating in the space of the abyss, a womb of seeds listening to the abyss, to the spirit for instructions on light travel, on the diamond map of death, the bones of the songs dreaming in my skull, this book of light dreaming my skull, in the length of infinity, it sleeps in my bones, my skull dreaming the sound of infinity, an orbit of dead tigers, an orbit of diamond eyes bleeding in kaleidoscope harmonies, the skull serpent biting its tail to a final poison of seeing, the wind sailing the skull with dark, stars of abyss, aviating the arteries, dancing to death, the voice of the spirit guiding the dream, an orbit of eyes flaming the void, an orbit of fire lighting the way, an orbit of light birthing the womb of sky, the womb of the sky orbiting the abyss of magnetic gravities, the skull dreaming infinity, the skull dreaming the infinity of death, the diamond void of dreams sailing the universe, stars swimming in the skull, stars sailing the skull, the shadows of ash sleeping, a sky of lungs breathing the skull, the eggs of infinity blossoming the universe, the eggs of infinity blossoming the universe, lungs orbiting infinity's star of sky, this journey of lungs breathing the universe, the shadow of silence singing my skull, the fire of the wind illuminating my skull with seeing, the wildfire of spirits singing our tongues to storms of seeing, the heaven and sky sleeping on the stars' tongues of silence shadowing, the shallow, the shadow, the skull, the sky of seeing to the future fire of God's visions, the heavens dreaming my skull, the heavens dreaming my bones to sleep, the ocean of sleep flying to sun, the sky singing the lungs to breath, the breath of death dreaming, the crystal clarity of sky, the diamond of darkness sleeping, the abyss to sky, the diamond of darkness dreaming death, the diamond of death listening, listening to sky, listening to the pearls of dream fire, sleeping in the skull of flight visions, of kaleidoscope drum harmonies, breathing the bones to universe, skull traveling the universe, spirit sailing sky, the sky flying skull of tigers, dreaming the fang of venom to visions, dancing in the lightning larynx of sound, sleeping, sleeping to sky lungs, breathing the bones to fire. The eye of the spirit sleeps in the skull universe, the serpent of infinity, biting its tail to poison, biting its tail to the fire of believing, the snake of fire sleeping in the skull, the door of all directions singing in the bones, the drum of all directions sleeping in the skull, this door of drums sleeping in all directions, the tongue vanishing to silence, the skull invisible with fire, a tongue of fire floating to the void, whispering the invisible silence of the spirit, whispering the invisible silence of wind seeing, lungs orbiting lungs of fire, the snake poison of ash, circling the dancing energy of infinity's ghost skull of dreams, the skull navigating astral labyrinths of dreams, of lungs of storm, of singing visions, a mirror of eyes sleeping in infinity, navigating the skull of dreams, observing the light of love, the dancing diamond of death dreaming, the birth of future suns, the breath of memory, foaming the flowers of fire, dancing in the sky universe of the skull, the tiger mind sleeping in the lightning field of stones, the abyss of the pupil singing, the lungs of death to space, singing the void of dream, kaleidoscope skull constellations singing to earth, the dream fires foaming, the lightning in the skull dancing to sight, the void sleeping in the lungs, the eyes of fire, the seer of infinity, floating to the spirit's heart of light, dancing to the dream, sleeping in the bones, the breath of birth singing the wind, my mother's womb of song, my father's larynx of lightning, the anatomy of lungs unfolding the breath of universe, the sky of lungs breathing, the silence of infinity's skull vibrating, death diamond, the sky dreaming stones of sun, this womb of dreams floating to void, this breast of lungs floating to the breath of the void, this breath of sea singing, a shadow of birds breathing fire in the lungs, the sleeping abyss of the skulls, sailing the larynx of stars, a fetus of fire foaming the face, with feathers of flying, a fetus of fire flying the face, a cranium of clouds, a kaleidoscope of seeing, the eye of fire germinating the void, the vertebrae of visions vibrating the sun, serpent of fire singing the dream, this compass of stars navigating the earth of my bones, the sky of my skull singing, the womb of the abyss sleeping in my skull, the energy of infinity circling the clouds, the dream that dreams all dreams, singing to my skull, the compass of the skull directing the wolf's teeth to ash, this map of lungs breathing universe, this belly of sunlight sleeping in the skull sound of maps, the diamond of death dreaming, the future womb of sky, a fetus of fire dreaming the future, lungs pregnant with the wind of remembering, the fire of the wind, the future wind sleeping in the void spine of songs, the spine songs of sun, a breast of beauty foams the milk of seeing, nourishing the serpent of the skull, sleeping in this eye of seeing, a lung of ears listening to the wind, listening to the vibrating skull diamond, dreaming death to sleep.